Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be wrapping up the month of December with all the books that I read and all the new movies that I watched this month. This is also my last video before the 2018 wrap-up. I have two of those coming up on Monday, December 31st, and then the new year will begin. I'm not going to do a 2019 plans video or a TBR video for that. I'm just going to be putting up a regular January TBR, but there will be 2018 wrap-ups, two of them on Monday. One of them, every single book I read and the rating, and then the other one is my favorite books, some of the favorite books I read this year. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm now just going to tell you the new movies that I watched. The first two movies I watched this month were Bourne Supremacy and Bourne Ultimatum. My favorite one, I think, was Bourne Supremacy. After watching these two movies, I really like the Bourne franchise now because they're just really well made. I feel like the two aspects that really make the movie is Matt Damon's performance and the cinematography. I know some people don't like that sort of stuff, but I liked how they did the whole videoing and editing. It was really cool. So now I'm a pretty big fan, and I need to watch the other two Bourne movies now, but I haven't gotten the chance to, so I'll probably watch it at some other point. And then I watched the first Bond movie, Dr. No, which was okay. I mean, it was made in like the 60s or 70s, I don't remember exactly. So the action, it kind of lacked in the action compared to movies now, and I don't know. I've seen some newer Bond movies and I like those a lot more than I liked Dr. No. I also finished Friends this month, so that was great. I was really sad to see it end. Most everybody has seen Friends. I'm just one of the last ones to do so, but yeah, Friends will always be part of my life. I'm going to just keep on watching it over and over and over again, really. Then I watched 2 Weeks Notice, which has Hugh Grant and Sandra Bullock in it. It's a rom-com kind of thing. I felt the same about it as I usually do for rom-coms. I liked everything in the beginning, the first 30 minutes. Them separately I really liked them as characters. And then by the end, I mean, everything got kind of cliched, and they kind of both lost their personalities, and yeah, I'm not a huge fan of rom-coms, or romance movies at all. I also finished Adam Ruins Everything, well, the first season that is on Netflix. I've started watching the episodes that are on YouTube, but aside from that, I have finished that series. I also started the show New Girl, which is a really cute show. I'm in season 2 now, and oh my gosh, I'm loving this show so much. And then, for the first time, I watched Fantastic Four: The Rise of the Silver Surfer. My sister and I watched the first Fantastic Four quite a while ago, and just had not gone around to the sequel yet, and we watched it. It was okay. It was not very good, but I already knew it wasn't gonna be very good. It actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. Finally, I went and saw Aquaman in theaters. Going into this movie, I had just seen the trailer, and I was kind of thinking it was gonna be a kind of a stoopy, cringy movie. It ended up not being that, but it still wasn't very good. The first 20 to 30 minutes was looking really promising, and I thought I was gonna have to tell all my friends, hey, I was completely wrong. This movie was really good. But then I was saved. It went downhill after 30 minutes and just became an alright 6.5 out of 10 movie. Those are all the movies I watched in December. Next, I'll tell you all the books that I read. First book I read is Every Last Word by Tamara Island Stone. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Looking back on it, it probably deserves more like a 3.8 or a 4 out of 5 stars, because it definitely didn't deserve 4.5, but it still was a pretty good book. Every Last Word is about a girl with purely obsessional OCD, and her entire life she's been part of the popular girls group, and she's also been hiding this mental illness from them, and she's starting to feel the toll of stress and stuff. Then in junior year she finds this poet's corner, and through this secret club she grows as a person and gets a boyfriend and learns to come to terms with her mental illness. It was a pretty good book. I had some questions about the kind of twist in the end. I didn't exactly understand what it was, and it kind of sounded problematic and like they were ignoring a big problem, but aside from that, it was a pretty good book. The romance was cute, not my favorite, but I also really liked all the poems that were throughout this book. I marked every single page that has a poem so I can just go back and read whatever I want. The characters in the Poet's Corner were really interesting and sometimes very eccentric. I liked them all. It wasn't like my favorite book out of the mental illness ones I read, but it was still pretty good, and I might read it again in a year or two. Next book I read is Made You Up by Francesca Zappia, but I DNF'd this about almost 200 pages into it. This is about a girl with schizophrenia who moves to a different high school and is trying to hide her mental illness, and has also stumbled upon this boy that she saw once at a grocery store when she was younger, and she thought was a hallucination. So through the novel, she has to come to terms with what is reality and what is not, and she's having some trouble with it. The problem that I had though with the book is just that it was going kind of slow. It also wasn't really focusing on her schizophrenia, which is why I read the book and wanted to learn about it. It was more focusing on this boy and whether he was good or bad. I feel like some of the antagonistic relationship that the two had was a bit over dramatized and there was no reason for it. I got bored of that about halfway into it and couldn't deal with it anymore. So I chucked it out the window and stopped reading it. And then I actually looked more into it and found that apparently this book is not very accurate to schizophrenia. So I'm glad that I decided to stop wasting my time reading it. Next, I read Prometheus Bound by Aeschylus. This is an ancient Greek tragedy play. It was a play that appeared at the Festival of Dionysus. I read about it in the Theater of War and was interested, and so I picked it up. I also had to read it for school anyways, but I picked it up, started reading it, and it's actually pretty interesting. I definitely want to read it again in a little bit. I like this sort of thing, analyzing through complex language and plays are definitely interesting. This is about a titan named Prometheus who has antagonized Zeus. There are a few different versions of how he did this, but the play is about him being exiled and tortured every single day of his life for the rest of eternity, and the people who come along and talk to him. Next book I read was A Tragic Kind of Wonderful by Eric Lindstrom. I DNF'd this book after about 30 pages because I was getting really bored with the contemporary formula, so I decided to quit it. I was burnt out on it, so I really needed to put it down, and so I did. And the next book I read was Quiet Girl in a Noisy World by Debbie Tong. I knew I would love this book because I've read it twice before, and I knew it would be a really quick read because it's just a comic book. And I did. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars because it's great. You guys should go check out this book. Then I took a while to read Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix by J.K. Rowling. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Everyone knows what this book is, so I don't really feel a need to explain it, but I like the Prisoner of Azkaban and Goblet of Fire more than this one. Oh, and Deathly Hallows. Actually, this is my second to last favorite book, so that's why it has kind of a lower rating. And then I read Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars. This is my least favorite Harry Potter book, not because it's horrible. It's still great, but the other ones are better in my opinion. Harry Potter just has kind of an odd obsession with Draco in this, and then I feel like not much happens. It's more of just a filler book between 5 and 7. Still really good though. I gave it 3 stars, and I'm going to read this series again next year, even though I didn't finish this one this year, but that's okay. I got through most of it. I could have gone through the rest of it, but I just chose not to. I was getting kind of burnt out on reading, but I'll talk more about that in another video. And then I read Loving vs. Virginia for the second time. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The first time I read this, it was Booktubeathon of 2016, so I read it a little over a year ago and loved it. I finally bought the actual copy for myself, and I love it even more now. I mentioned it in my video about race relations and stuff. I talk about it a little bit and the things that go on in here, so you can go look at that. I really love this book, and I think everyone should go check it out. And it's really short too. It looks big, but all the pages are just filled with verses. It's told in verse, and then some of the pages have pictures. So it's actually pretty short if you're not looking for an entirely huge read. And the last book I read this month and this year is Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. I started this book in February, got 27 pages into it, and then had to DNF it because I didn't have enough time. So I've started up again so I can finish it before the end of the year. And I really enjoyed it. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. It is it's really just a day in the life of a British woman in the 20s or 50s. Oh geez, I don't remember when this was written. In the 20s. It's really good. She's going around preparing for a party. It talks about the social aspects of the world at that time and about her feelings on life and death and love. It's really great and interesting. I want to read more Virginia Woolf, and I have a beautiful set that all look like this of just Virginia Woolf books, and look at that. It's beautiful. So those are all the books that I read this month. I hope you enjoyed it. As I said, Monday there will be 2 videos on a 2018 wrap-up, and then I'll be putting a January TBR up on the 3rd, or the 2nd, the 2nd. And that's it. I'll see you guys later. Bye.